Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I have a build guide for you for Diablo 4. That's right, y'all. I'm back, and I've been playing Diablo 4. I've been trying all the different classes, and you know what I discovered? Dingleberries are back, baby. Well, specifically Sorcerer's Ice Shards. So I guess the real question is, do you like freezing stuff, while also burning stuff? Do you like getting a bajillion free Ice Shards ricocheting between enemies like it's friggin' pinball? Do you enjoy being insanely overpowered, while also solving global warming? Okay, yeah, maybe the last bit about global warming is an exaggeration. But today I have got one insane sorcerer build for Diablo 4 here. This puppy got me through the end game insanely fast, leveled me really quick, and is obscenely fun. And like all my guides, I ain't stretching this out to waste your time, so let's get right into it. This is my Diablo 4 Burning Ice Shards build for level 1 through 50. Before we get too far into it, please note that I'm going to link you to the Diablo 4 build in the video description so you can review it without having to pause the video or replay it. So the core concept of this build is abusing Ice Shards, both its basic attack as well as its passive ability. It's all built around Ice Shards' potential to freeze, pierce, bounce, and get free shots off. Ice Shards is your primary damage dealer, so you will be casting it 80% of the time, only switching to your generator when you are out of mana. When it comes to the skill specifically, you are going to max Ice Shards. You're also going to want to give it enhanced, because that gives it a 40% chance to bounce with a 100% chance if the target is frozen. We will get to that. And for our second passive, you want greater, which means if you have a barrier, it treats all enemies as frozen, which basically means 100% bounce. We are going to absolutely abuse this synergy. Backing up a bit, our generator is going to be Frostbolt. You're going to want to get enhanced and glinting, as that maximizes the mana recovery potential, so we can get back to using, Ice Shard Dingleberries. You're also going to want to get 1 point in Firebolt, as it's going to be our second enchantment, but you don't need that till level 30. In tier 3, there is the usual batch of one-hit wonders. You put a point in Teleport, Ice Armor, and Frost Nova, as all three of these skills are nuts. For Teleport, you're going to want Enhanced and Shimmering, which will provide you with a lot more defense, but Ice Armor and Frost Nova are core to this build. Ice Armor gives us Barrier, and with Enhanced, it also regens mana, which is something we really need. You don't need to put any more points into it beyond those two. On the other hand, Frost Nova is our tactical nuke. It's our secret weapon. It's the thing that pulls this whole build together. If you get it with Enhanced and Mystical, you'll not only freeze and vulnerable enemies as well as decrease the cooldown, but it is going to turn us into an ice machine gun once we get to our enchantments. Our last active ability is going to be Ice Blades. Why I like it is it's a fire and forget, and if you get enhanced and summoned upgrades, it will decrease the cooldown of not only itself, but also all of our other abilities, which is super duper important for this build. And that's our core kit. As you can see, it's just slightly ice themed. Well, let's move on to the enchantments and passives, which really pull this whole build together. Now, before I get to the rest of the passives, let's talk our enchantments really quick, as it's important to this build. As I mentioned earlier, our second enchantment will be Firebolt at level 30, as this build hits a lot of enemies very quickly, and that burning is very useful. But on top of that, there's a ton of passives related to enemies burning that will really help us overall in terms of utility. But the most important one is using Ice Shards as our first enchantment at level 15. You see, basically what that does is if you freeze an enemy and it's nearby, you will auto-cast free Ice Shards at it while it remains frozen. Not only is this good if you kit a bunch of freezing abilities, which we will get to, but it also means that when you cast Ice Nova, everything around you that is now frozen, you're going to spew bullets at. These shards will bounce when they hit these enemies. It basically is a tactical nuke for anything in the area, including elites. Trust me, it's completely insane. So with that in mind, there are a handful of passives that are very useful. Max Glass Cannon, obviously, but the combo of Snap Freeze and Precision Magic is super helpful. Snap Freeze gives us a chance to auto-freeze anything when we hit it with cold, and Precision Magic amps up that lucky hit chance. Aside from that, you'll take everything in the ice section on the second to last tier, as this will help with stuff like mana as well as damage. You also want to eventually max Protection and Elemental Dominance. Protection in particular is super useful, as it grants you Barrier when you cast any of your many cooldown abilities, which if you remember makes it so you treat all of your enemies as frozen, for Ice Shards, meaning more bounces. Later on, I also maxed Devouring Blaze as well as a value point or two in Fiery Surge, and this is after you hit 30, because that will synergize well with all the burning you're doing. And of course, the minute you have it available, you will want to unlock Avalanche, the ultimate passive in Ice, because that gives you not only a big damage upgrade to Shards, but it also will save you a ton of mana in the long run. Now, I'm not going to go over all of the legendaries you could use for this build. They are in the guide itself, but there is one legendary aspect you're going to want to grab as soon as possible, as it massively improves this build effectiveness, and that is the aspect of Piercing Cold. What it does is really simple. It makes Ice Shards pierce, which as you can imagine, increases its odds of bouncing, as well as the amount of damage it does. Luckily, this one is super easy to get, as it is in the starting area Fractured Peaks in the dungeon called Dead Man's Dredge, which is right here on your map. Grab that aspect, and then slap it on a yellow glove, offhand, or ring, and you are set to go. I highly recommend doing this as soon as you think you can tackle the dungeon. So yeah, that is the build. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I saw the balance changes that came out for release date, I thought they were going to nerf this, because not only is it insanely fun to play, it is obscenely strong. What you want to do for other legendaries is basically anything that synergizes with this build. Sorcerers get a lot of really good stuff, like more damage to something that's frozen, damage to stuff that's vulnerable, critical strike damage against stuff, because you're going to be critting a ton. You basically want to keep your ice armor up as much as humanly possible, which not only makes it so that your damage output is maximized, but also makes you pretty much invulnerable because of how ridiculous ice armor is as long as you keep attacking. Like I said, you're basically going to be crowd controlling and doing massive damage to everything. And on top of that, it is super easy to pilot, so if you're a beginner, I highly recommend it as well. So yeah, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of this build in the comments, and let's discuss what changes you might make. But yeah, like I said, I love this build. I completely recommend it. So make sure you check it out, and be sure to follow the channel, as there are going to be more Diablo builds coming up for both Sorcerer as well as probably some other classes once I get around to them. But regardless, you go out there and have a great time playing Diablo 4.